One. And we are live. And we are potentially on a bit of a clock because my computer has been kicking my headset off from time to time. So
All right.
we might go full potato here. So, all right. Going in the time machine, 2009, the first custom set that I made. And we have the 2009 Devil Rays coming off of a World Series the year before.
And still a good team, solid team, over 500. Not as good as obviously the World Series Yankees we saw previously, but another good squad.
So I believe this era is when was a book written 2% or 3%. There was some book written about this era of the Devil Rays and why they were as successful as they were, but we shall carry on. Speaking of their success, here's a quick overview so we know what to expect. Like you said, over 500, fifth in runs for the game, so almost 200 home runs. I don't know if the Rays have ever hit 200 home runs. I never think of them as being that type of team, but good.
They seem never to have a lot of power on the squad. Maybe that one year that Carlos Pena hit like 40 home runs.
That would be this year, I believe.
Oh, well then this is probably as close as they came with 199.
He led the American League in home runs, but I think the National League had about 4 guys ahead of him. So, and you're seeing fifth in on-base percentage. This is pretty good offensive team, middle of the road pitching team. You're going to see the all-stars there, so those are the guys who are going to have the most exciting cards. So let's keep it rolling. So quick overview of the team. So just under the 5,000 points, and 5,000 points for a single season is a lot.
Yeah.
Each year you're going to get about 2 to 3. Is that what you guys have experienced?
Probably around 2 to 3, maybe 5 if there's a big disparity between the top teams and the low teams. But typically your playoff teams are going to be in that 48 to 4,900 point range. Teams just over 500, around 4,700, and then your 95 win teams are going to be over 5,000.
So this is actually going to be a very deep team. You're going to go through and see for a single season. If you were to use these guys, just play with the 09 Rays, you're going to find that about 11 of their offensive players have no issue playing. And then the pitchers are all solid, relievers are all solid. So this is not really your average third place team. I think they're a tick above, and I think Showdown looks favorably upon them.
Yeah, and I think it really just drives home how good the Yankees and Red Sox were this year. That the Rays had to play them however many times, and that probably kept them from being a 90-win team.
Very, very possibly could. It would be interesting if we did a simulation with the divisions jumbled up a little bit, what would end up happening.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you just finished up your simulation, right?
Well, there's one with all the 2000 and 2001 card simulation that came down to a game 163. And then my all-decade league, which mixed year cards from 2009 through 2015 with the sets that we made in 2016 to the present, and sort of made a best of collection. So that one, I just finished simulating the standings for the final 162 games. We did all-star teams, and next thing will be releasing those final stats, and then I'm really excited to start playing the playoffs.
Yeah, that'd be great. So maybe when we get done doing the reviews here, we can simulate the 09 season.
That'd be awesome.
So, all right. Well, we have all the charts. So there's going to be some remastered tips, little things that I have here, and I kind of want your opinion as a designer yourself. So,
yeah.
Oh, I need to move our faces because we're covering the most important part of the card, because I know everybody just enamored by on base.
On base, and then, for a shortstop, it is all about the defense for so many players.
So that's the interesting thing here with Bartlett is, so many people want that +5, +4, and he has one thing you really want with that 10, the speed A, and then the shortstop +0. So, and in the 09 set, you have 3 options if you want to go with a 10. So you have the Hanley, who this is when Hanley was, 5-tool player. So 550
Marlin stud.
Yeah, big time card there. And then Bartlett and Jeter, to me, they blurred very closely together. And I have a question for you. Do you look at your sets afterwards and try to maybe separate players and make them more interesting if they end up very alike?
Yeah, if I can sort of justify. So like someone like Bartlett, I might have done, look at it and gone to make him different from Jeter. I might have given him an on-base 9 and then less outs on his chart or something like that to kind of balance the defense. Because I think he's going to get little play as like the lots of outs and no defense. I see like people passing on that guy a lot. So maybe that's somewhere where I try to tweak. I don't know. I think that's the sort of small little things like here or there is like trying to juggle it in that sort of way. But I don't know. Usually nothing like large scale.
Yeah. So I believe I think he needed to take some of his triples. I believe he had 7. So he had enough to get a natural triple, and then he used the rest as a Clevin to get himself up to the homer. I'm wondering if that's the right decision. If it's not, take the homer, get 2 triples, be that FP the speed A, probably get. So give him the speed A, give him the single plus. Well, he has the speed A, but maybe give him an A20, no homer. That would drop his points down. I don't know what it would be without comparing him to other cards off the top, but it'd probably bring him close to like the 400 range. And now, and then you have a really interesting card, somebody who's very good at a leadoff hitter, but gonna really be a cost on defense. I think that's a more interesting card if we were to remaster this 09 set. But with the card that we have here, how would you use him?
I mean, I think you're right that he's probably a 2 to 3 hitter. I personally I wouldn't draft him, and I think so many people are scared off by the 6 outs on his own chart, and that's gonna push him because it's really hard. There's nothing more demoralizing in a showdown game than the guy you spend 470 points on is getting out on his chart all the time. Mm-hmm. For us, that was Anthony Rendon in the 2018 set. He just murdered some guy's team as their number 3 hitter who was always out on his own chart. Yep. And it's so demoralizing that I can't do it to myself. So he's almost a can't draft for the high point value, even though he gives you speed and great on base.
You had mentioned bringing the on base down. That is the one thing that I do in a very, very seldom, like maybe once every couple of years. The only one I can remember off the top of my head was I moved Ortiz from an 11 to a 10 because having a DH 11, it was either have 3 11s that year or have a DH be an 11. And I thought moving Ortiz down was the lesser of 2 evils and giving him a little love on his chart. I'm religious about my on bases when I make them. Sounds like you're more fluid, and you're also of the belief that not belief because it's math. The 10 1 to 16 outs get on base less than 9 1 to 2 outs.
Yeah, and so that like against a control 4 pitcher type of thing, but tier 3 or tier 4, I guess. We saw that the average on base 10 who walked at 7 had like a 385 on base percentage. Whereas an on-base 9 who only had 2 outs had a 413 on-base percentage. And one who actually like an on-base 9 who reached at 5 was still getting on at a higher clip than the on-base 10 who was on at 7. So that's where we were like, wait a minute on some of our 10s. And I had a really good suggestion from a guy on the Discord for MLB Showdown stuff about just getting rid of his solution, because we were talking about this, was maybe just get rid of on-base 10s getting on at 7. Like make the cutoff on at 6 and then start the next one. And, that way you eliminate some of these overlap, because it was frustrating for some of the people that were playing with my set to be like, Rendon has a higher on-base percentage than this on-base 9, but he's getting on way less than they are in actual gameplay. So it's been something I've been working to tweak as I've been looking at future sets.
We are going full potato here, so forgive us.
Okay.
So shortstop is actually in this set is not a very good position to punt at. There's nobody great with good defense for cheap. Your only real option is Paul Janisch as a 5 with a 4 fielding for 20 points. That's the only real punt. So you have to kind of pay to play at shortstop. So moving on, so we're not here all night. Interesting guy with Carl Crawford. Always interesting. Well, at least his Rays cards were interesting. Once he went to the Red Sox, he stopped being very interesting. But because he would rack up a lot of the counting stats, Showdown looked very favorably on him in his young years.
Yeah, and this was actually one of the cards that you included when I ordered the 2011 set back in the day, because I got the 10 sort of like custom ones from other sets included with it. And so this Carl Crawford instantly was inserted into the 2011 Ray lineup. And what an all-around great card. I love him as a leadoff guy, although I know the 5 outs are going to scare some people. I think for as much speed and hitting an extra base at 13 is awesome.
23s are the highest that I ever went. So is that?
Yep.
You guys are also 23s?
Yeah, I mean, I copied that from you. I like the 23. I think for a couple like legendary guys, we did 24. Maybe for the 2019 set, they might have done it for like Buxton and Edman. That was their template thing because those guys' speed was so ridiculous. But I like 23 being the break the bank speed because it's already kind of overpowered, I think.
It is pretty
the
powerful.
Best way.
Yeah, but the same way that an 8 is crippling. There's actually a 7. I made a 7 in this set, so we'll get to that at some point. So I love the 23. I was stingy with the +2 outfields on the corner outfield in this set. I think I became a little bit more loose with that. I would like to see the game go more digital so we can kind of if we goes digital, then we can tinker with stuff without having to mess with people's paper cards as much. But the +2 is big. I think there's only like 4 or 5 guys with that. So great. You can bat it. I think you can bat him third if you're really cheap. If you're going pitching heavy, because he's going to get some singles. And then when I'm looking for third, I need you to both drive in runs and score yourself. So
yeah, and he's going to do that for sure.
Yeah, and 360, he's not horrible even at it sounds awkward, but put him at 5, and he can do the same. He can single guys in. I mean, I wouldn't put him in front of power guys. I'd put him in front of other speed guys. But then you put him at 5, and he's going to get a lot of cheap runs because he can put himself into scoring position, and you don't really need to put points behind him. So love the Carl Crawford card. I think this is a guy you actually go and draft early, and then you have points. You still have points to play with. I will say that if you play 2009 only, if you're drafting that, I think you need to supplement the set with a certain amount of heavy hitter, heavy point guys from the other sets. I think that's almost any single year set.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's keep it moving. So, this might be the best Evan Longoria card that I made. I think he may have creeped in as a 10 one year, but interesting guy, young up-and-coming stud. So here we go. We have the opportunity to do all sorts of things. I think he's one of the most well-rounded third basemen in the league, and it really represents on his card. How would you use him?
Yeah, I mean, I love this guy. Like you were talking about with a number 3 hitter or a number 2 hitter. He's so versatile. And it's funny, Carl Crawford and this Longoria both made that all-decade Rays squad. Mm-hmm. And Longoria is hitting third for them. I love the giant double range. I really place an emphasis on extra base hits, especially for the guys with a lot of points that I'm going to spend on. Here you get the premium defense. You get above average speed. I think that 17 speed is sneaky useful, especially in a power position like the third spot. Mm-hmm. And he is going to drive in so many runs while setting himself up to continue the inning. I love this guy for 460. I mean, for 10 points less than the shortstopper, was it Bartlett?
Bartlett.
10 points less for Bartlett. You get the premium defense, minor knock-on speed. I know he has 1 less on base, but he's going to get so much more offensive production in the long run that I love this guy. And this is who I would spend my 450-ish points on from this team.
On this team, at third base, I'd go with I love the A-Rod card from this set, the 10, 17, no 17 to 20 homer, no double for 470 with no fielding, but those are I mean, he's in the conversation of best third baseman in the set. I had also discussed I thought about, as I look back, he's a young guy. Would it have killed him to get a speed A there? I think he changes the card a little bit. Probably that one extra speed is actually probably going to jump him 20 points.
Yeah,
least.
I was looking at the one because I didn't have your 2009 all the cards when I was doing the all decade. So some I just sort of approximated. And so my Longoria, same double range. I think I gave him one more homer and I gave him the 20 speed. So mine's 530 points.
Okay.
So he's definitely like, he got bumped because I made him in a vacuum versus like looking at the whole set. But yeah, he's awesome. It's a great year for Longoria.
Yeah. So here's the Carlos Pena card we were talking about. The only problem with this Carlos Pena is that first base is stacked. I have never seen a position where this is like 2000 set level of stacked, where you can get whatever you want, and you're basically going to get passed out Carlos Pena if you want him.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure all of those guys off to the left there were on all-decade league teams. It's ridiculous. That Prince Fielder is so good. I love that Ryan Howard. I think he's another one who struggled in the simulation because he had so many outs on his chart. But he just has that 50 home run power. Love the Tex for the Yankees, as we talked about before. And then I think, is that Jim Tomei on the Dodgers?
I believe that's Jim Tomei prorated, and I think I took his doubles and moved him into home runs. So that was the last great Jim Tomei.
I think he's on the Dodgers, like his card.
I believe he is. Don't quote me on that. My little spreadsheet I have in front of me doesn't have teams.
Because I remember he's on the Dodgers for that one, which is interesting. And then he actually has an even better year in year 2010 on the Twins. He's a 9-homer at 16. I got one of that. That was one of the custom cards too.
Yeah,
and,
that's what happens.
I love that one.
When you let Matt have say, those twins start to creep up in value.
Oh yeah, that might be a factor. But he was really, really awesome because he had like 25 home runs in half a season. Like he had, I think, 300-ish plate appearances.
Yeah, this last couple of years, he was able to keep the home runs per at bat. So,
yeah.
And we had talked about this. The number that I had used was 500, and you had gotten close, but yeah, I think you picked a number slightly higher than 500.
Yeah, I did 600. Yeah. I mean, like the rates were the same. It was just sort of like when they hit 35 or 45, and I put ranges around those numbers. So I was like, oh, that's like the middle. So 40 to 49 is when they get the on-base 10, homer at 17, instead of all the way up to 45.
Yeah, so I bonus people out who go above 500, and then everyone who is under 500, I would prorate up to 500. And since Tomei did a great job, then he did great. But Carlos Pena did great because he had great counting stats, played a bunch, led the American League in home runs. He had the Gold Glove the year before. I think I gave out 3+1s at first base, and Euclid as a utility guy had it for 4. I think Pena is supposed to get a +1 here. He's actually a pretty good glove man.
I gave him a +1. He snuck into the +1 on mine.
Yep.
So I think the year before he got the Gold Glove.
So I think it makes him interesting. It makes him kind of competitive with even a stacked first base. Though again, if you're drafting 2009. Don't stress first base at all. Carlos Pena is a pretty cheap option to hit some home runs.
Yeah.
So here's a guy that I think that I did not anticipate that he was just going to be this utility knife player for 1,000 World Series teams.
Yeah. So, I think he made 3 all-decade teams.
Oh, I bet. I mean, so his skill set of playing a million positions pretty well. Good speed, or at least good base running. He's a quirky one where I think his base running is not indicative of his speed.
Yeah.
So I always thought of him as being a heady guy. So always done well there, and got reasonable counting stats. What's your thoughts when drafting a guy with this type of position flexibility?
I really like it, especially if you've gone sort of pitcher. If I'm going affordable pitching and target like the control 4, 1 to 16 out guys, so I know I've got some 450 point guys to rely on. I know I've got some points to spend maybe I know in this set, first base is so deep that I can get power whenever I want it.
Mhm.
But I don't know what positions are going to stay available for my punts later on. This is where a guy like Zobrist, who can give you shortstop, second base, or corner outfield, comes in, to me, clutch. Because then towards the end of the game, when I've got 90, 80 points to go, and I'm looking for that punt guy who's got speed and defense, instead of being locked into, I need a second baseman who fits that description, I can look at all 4 of those positions and find the best guy.
So in this set, he's probably a second baseman. You need to think of him as being a second baseman first, just it's the thinnest of the positions. And then for the remastered, I think he should have gotten +2 speed and left field, right field +1. I think, but that's me projecting his later years and his reputation back onto this year.
Yeah, and it's funny how similar he sort of is to the 2012 card that you made for him too. He's almost like, he's very similar. I think he might have one extra like double on his chart. He might have switched a homer for a triple as well. But then, like you were saying, he got like the slight bump in speed and the slight bump in defense as his sort of reputation became known. So he was probably still bursting onto the scene at this point. And, you know, this might have been his first year with massive on base.
So this was the first year that I remembered him, and I don't think I watched enough Rays games to really appreciate the little things he did, and the advanced metrics on defense were still not as socialized as they are now.
Yeah, this was his first like full season. His most played appearances before this was 227. So this was his first full year, burst down the scene with that 405, and I mean, he just kept being a guy who's going to consistently be an on-base 9 or 10 and give you decent chart production as well as versatile above-average fielding with speed for the next 7 years, I think. I mean, he was an on-base 10 in our 2018 set and very popular draft choice.
Yeah, he did a lot of things to keep himself around in the showdown world. I don't know if in draft, I think he's always good in single season, and I think in draft the points are always quirky. One being a utility guy all the time, you're going to get taxed on that, and then it's he's always a low speed A, so it's always interesting. You need to have a spot that he fits in.
Yeah.
All right, another guy. These Rays, I think they just pulled names out of a hat on who was going to play where. So weird combination of positions.
Was Madden the manager?
This was Madden the manager. We're going to go over that at the end. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I don't know when he got 10 games at third base with Longoria there. Is the only person he was like a mainstay. But
yeah, they snuck him around, and I really like this guy. Like, this is another one where, as I think, second base in a weak second base draft, I love just filling a guy in there who can hit sixth in my lineup very easily.
He can do that. He's solid. I don't think you need to build your team around him. But to the point about this Rays team, I think this is the 6th batter we're on right now, and we still have an 8 with a pretty solid chart for an 8. There are teams that are batting this guy 4.
Yeah, no, they are a deep lineup.
So, and the hits keep coming. So, there's Pat the Bat, not his glory days with the Phillies. Experimentation with the DH points. What were you guys' thoughts on the first time you saw the DH with the major discount?
Well, I really liked them because it made them so much easier to draft and fit in on your team. I think we changed the discount rate because it felt like they were half value for a lot of them.
That seems about right, and I think that was severe, but I also trusted people would either ban them, and the only real loss would have probably been Ortiz most of the time,
yeah,
a couple other guys. Either ban them or just say they have to be a pinch hitter entirely.
I think we put in a discount because of the fielding, but it ended up being like 100-ish points because they were stuck DHing or being such a liability on defense. I think we changed it so if you used them at first base, it'd be like -3 or Matt might have even done -5 to really stop people from loading up on DHs.
Yeah, I'm curious here, and this is one to pull Matt, graphics Matt, or somebody who does the graphics well, what it would look like to have like a fielding salary cap and a DH salary cap number in there, like a point.
Yeah.
In there. So either way, if you play them straight up, every DH is. I mean, it should just be a mad dash for DHs if you play these guys regular. If not, they're great off the bench. Depending on what your rules are. Not the greatest.
Yeah, I mean, like 40 points for an on-base 7 to come in and pinch hit late in the game if you're doing NL rules is great, even if he is that 1 through 7 out on his own chart, which is brutal for poor Pat. But better be a 7 than a 6.
Yeah, that was. So I think I took something to give him the homer. I didn't do because my formula was built in to end at 6, so must have needed to give it to him to get the home run. So, or I had some blood feud with Pat Burrel, I suppose. So, there we go. I feel like everyone who's a current manager should just like retroactively get max fielding.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I like this card.
It's good. Like he's not the sabermetrics guy that he would grow into, right? When you look at him as a player, he doesn't strike you as that. But
you got to fit these solid on-base 7s into your team at some point, save some salary, and you got speed, good fielding, not a lot of outs on his own chart, and then also productive outs. He'll hit fly balls for those sack flies. And then, extra base hits at 16 is nice. Single at 9, like you were saying, you want that single-digit single number for a guy to be productive at driving in runs.
Absolutely. And again, this is the 8th batter here, and you're getting a guy you can see away that he's either going to put people across the plate or get himself to home plate. And that's really what I'm thinking about. I mean, Showdown boils baseball down to a very, very simple way in that to me, where it's like, okay, are you getting guys to home or are you yourself getting home?
Yeah.
It's tougher to see when I'm watching regular baseball. And for 180 points, I think Kapler can do that. So
I like this cutout too.
His cutout?
Yeah, I thought that's a good one. He's got the good intense face. He looks like a leader.
Yeah, that's the face of a manager. So this is when I'm doing the graphics here. Also, for those of you who have good eyes and can read the font, I did not have the eyes for graphics or the steady hand needed. So whenever anything looks relatively curved, I'm happy.
Oh, I like that one. I like that one a lot.
This one's good. There are a couple. I think I like the Teixeira where you got him the profile view with the glove down. That was one that always, like I got done, I was like, that one feels good. So,
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, the top of the glove's a little angly, right? Like we're always our own critic. This actually would not be their 9th guy. This is crazy because they haven't had their catcher yet. So you have the opportunity to play lwamura or Ibar to fit them into your lineup. But this is crazy. If they're going to have an 8 on the bench.
Yeah.
For a non-playoff team, that's relatively unheard of. So,
especially for only 220 points for all that you get with this guy, great deal.
At a weak position, this is somebody to absolutely look at. I mean, Luis Castillo is, I don't know how to firm to pronounce those L's. My lack of culture is coming through. So,
yeah, but the original Castillo, because he's a good leadoff guy for 90 points less. I mean, he's getting on at 3. This is a good deal. I put him as your 9 hitter to start the lineup up again. He's going to be on a lot for your big fellas coming around the second time through the order.
The second base is weak. It's not like you're giving up. I mean, Chase Utley is one of the few ways to eat up a ton of points in this set. And then after that, you have a lot of flawed 8s. And you have Castillo. So I am fine with this guy. So
I mean, like he's projected to have a 380 on base percentage with getting on at 3 as an 8, which, is barely lower than Bartlett, like in terms of what you'd normally see against the pitchers. So he's still not going to get on as much as Bartlett is. But if you make it 9-1 in that way, you're like basically 38% chance-ish both times. So, it makes him a really good number 9 where you don't get that much of a drop-off from your 1. And you're probably going to put a good speed guy ahead of your Crawford, Longoria, Pena, Zobrist, Murderer's Row.
Yeah, this lineup's going to score runs. They have a lot of ways to do it. Like I said, led the league in steals by a mile, almost 200 home runs. These guys scored runs. So this was not how they did it. This card is just, I don't see what use you have for Dioner Navarro.
No.
I think he played just about every out for these guys, too.
Yeah, he's bad.
40 point. I mean, the 5 is like at that point level. I kind of want someone who single-handedly shuts down the run game.
Yeah, you want a +8 arm or +7 at least.
Yeah,
if you're that bad at offense.
Yeah, you're playing a team that's not going to ground into a double play a ton. So, in this set, you got Jason LaRue at 20 points with a 6. Rod Barajas. Depending on what your thoughts are for the 4s and 5, Rod Barajas is the 4 of the set with a 7 on. So, and you got 16 to 20 homer, and those feel like 3-run home runs, no matter when no one's on base. With Rod Barajas, you got Humberto Quintero with an 8. You got Brian Schneider. All these guys are under 40 points with Navarro. So don't even, if you're playing single season Rays, you got to play him because he's the only catcher on the team. But don't even look at him in draft. All right, how about this? Here's a bench player that is going to play in a lot of single season. So Gabe Gross, 100 points.
Oh yeah, for 100 points. I mean, I think he's going to find his way onto teams as the number 8 or 9 hitter to round out a lineup with a cheap guy in a lot of drafts, I think.
And if you're doing double switches, if you're doing and you have a big area, you have an outfielder towards the top of your lineup, you're playing National League rules, leaving him in there, you don't feel like you're completely giving up entirely. So good, solid player, 100 points, definitely worth keeping on there. I mean, but you're not going to build your team around.
Looks like he just rolled a 2 on his own chart, though.
That does not look like.
He's like, I was up. It was a 3-1 count, and I looked at 2 fastballs right on the outside corner.
Yeah, that is the face of a guy with a 7. Well, no, that's probably the face of a guy with a 5. So, but he's got a 7. Here's a guy that it never added up for, right? I thought that he would at least put up the counting numbers like his brother. He had one crazy year where he decided that he was going to take pitches. I think it was the year before this.
Yeah.
And then he just decided he was going to swing at everything for the rest of his career. Oh, he had 2 years. So 07 and 08. He had 380s. Great.
Everyone thought he was going to be a perennial all-star. I mean, he obviously he didn't put up the power of a Ronald Acuna in his first years, but it was that sort of hype. Or like right now with with Robert in Chicago, where this is a guy who projected as the number 1 overall prospect. I think he was the number 1 pick. He could do it up. I guess his comp might be Byron Buxton, sadly, as people who like the Twins.
There you go.
Except he gave the tantalizing few years there in 2007 and 2008. But and he was good. I remember in the 2011 set, he got a very versatile on-base 7 card. But you're right, most years he was a bad on-base 5 or 6.
Yeah, and I think that's what shocked me the most is not only was he at 5 or 6, but I expected him to have some 30 home run years because he just stuck around and everyone got excited. The Delman Young was also a guy that when he got picked up, teams the Tigers had Cabrera who hit for the Triple Crown, and they got Delman Young, and the talk was this is the guy who's going to lead us to the World Series.
Well, and his on-base percentage, man, as soon as he dipped below 300 in 2012, it never really resurfaced. He was okay for the Padres in extremely limited action in 2015, but man, it's tough. His last full season was 2016, and he hit 20 homers. He had 291 on base percentage, and it's out of the league. I mean, that 2007 season, he had 24 home runs and 22 steals, and then he had 3 straight years of over 40 steals. So he earned that speed, but, couldn't get on base enough to make it work.
I just don't see. I mean, he might be. And the problem too here is like he'd probably do okay in single season because he's gonna face some zeros, but he's not gonna do that on this team.
No.
Right? Like he's not even gonna see the field. Like he'd be fun in single season because he's that guy at the bottom of the order who can do things and make things happen. But he's on the wrong team for that.
I think his use here is against those low control pitchers. Maybe put him in front of a Gabe Gross.
Yeah.
But that's, limited. And you have to be playing out like a full season, I think, in a draft league, like a 10-team league, 12-team league. He's rarely going to get picked, especially for 180 points. It's tough to spend almost double what you would for Gross on Upton, even though you get the additional speed and, extra base hits. It's hard to sacrifice in a league.
I mean, I guess you can live with him if you're doing like some random draft where he gets passed out to you and he's like, okay, like if you have to be creative, he's interesting because you can find ways to make him successful, but you really got to work.
Yeah.
So, all right. Interesting. I think this is the spring training shot that you guys love. You guys love the guys in their warm up.
Oh yeah. Love me. Especially we just did all of those, like pennant run cards, and we got a bunch of the spring training photos for that. And looks like he just injured himself. Like he just took a ball to the nuts or something in this picture. I am
pretty sure that he just like threw something at somebody while he was stretching. Like this is clearly not game action here. So.
Oh yeah.
I love the card, dude. This is definitely a 2 or a 3 or a 4 guy that I can live with at 270 points. This isn't that not the exact same because Arabu's a 5, but this is that Arabu style of team.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a solid.
Yeah. I think he's definitely like I would pick him as a 4 starter. Like he's someone I would target going in and say, look, I think he's going to be more affordable than like the Scott Erickson types. Even though I get 2 less IP, I think it's worth the 130 points. I love to stock up 3 really good bullpen arms. I think this is a guy in the number 4 hole who can get me that 5 innings, only give up 2 or 3 runs, keep me in the game. Boom, I'm set at the back end of the order.
I love double walks. I love the 16, 17 walk, 18, 19 single, 20 double guys. That's where I'm at. So I just feel like, you'll get a guy on third and 1 out and they'll walk someone and he's not – Price isn't going to get a ground ball. But I love those type of guys. So 5-inning pitch. This is definitely going to depend on your retired rules. So the one that I started using in a tournament that I like is the -1/+1. -1 to the pitch, +1 to the swing for each inning tired. So
yeah, no, I like that. I've just been doing the -1 control when he's tired, but I like the +1 to the swing. That really punishes guys for keeping them in.
It seems to make it a little bit more strategic, and then also being a little strict on not letting teams just stock up on the John Johnstones of the world and have more innings pitched than starters over. Yeah,
we've just been putting big restrictions on relievers. Like they can't pitch if they go over their IP in a game, they can't pitch the next game. They can only pitch 2 games in a row in general, and that's been sort of beneficial. And then we've been depressing IP to prevent guys from drafting. I think like in this set, that CC Sabathia, I think he's like a control 5, 1 to 16 out maybe. And I mean like that guy would go complete games so often that it's just like, let's make the higher IP guys lower control and round down on some of these IPs if they're high control. Yeah, like if they're like a 6.53, we'll make them a IP 6.
Yeah, I was a little generous, and I think I have multiple 5, 1 to 16 out guys in this set. So, not sure why I thought that was it. Jeff Niemann, whatever your thoughts are on David Cone, copy paste. And I'm wondering if it feels like, well, I guess the logo is the same for him. For some reason, the logo stands out more against him. I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't know. Was he? Is it like not?
No, it's the same. It just for some reason it looks like it bursts.
Yeah, there's no like filter layer over it. So on most of them, there's like a see-through green layer, but for Price and Niemann, there isn't.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Quality control was not high on this first set, considering I never.
Well, I mean, this is like the test run.
Yeah, I didn't think these were ever going to see the light of day. Needless to say,
Exactly.
not exciting. We've seen that if you've probably played with this card under a different name. Whatever your thoughts are on David Cohn, go with it.
Yeah.
So, James Shields, he would go on to like have a very successful little spurt here after this.
I feel like James Shields got the short end in a lot of your sets. Poor James, but once he got to the Royals, he was an absolute monster in I think like 2013 and 2014 and the first year with the Padres. He had a really good card. That 2015 one made it onto the Padres All-Decade team, which might speak more as to the Padres' lack of pitching than how good James Shields was. But you're right. Like he had a really good run from 2012 through 2015. And this year, I mean, he did lead the team in innings, but not his best stuff.
I think I started juicing his innings. I think that was the way that I thought he would be remembered as a guy who could go late into games. This is exactly not how I want a card to be set up with 2 doubles and no walks.
Yeah, it's
So,
rough. I felt bad for him because I was like, he has a lower ERA and a lower WHIP than David Price, but he is so much worse. I cannot draft this card.
Yeah, I went off of ERA and win-loss record, so the sabermetrics people can send their hate mail to me.
So like the win-loss would factor into control?
Yeah, that was the way that you could have like the Felix Hernandez's of the world who would have bad win-losses but great ERA. It was the way that you could have strong, low-control guys and then made the top 10 in ERA custom. So I think he was like 10th. Like you do not want to finish 9th or 10th in ERA. It's better to finish 11 and just get that like 6 control or the 5, like a 5, 1 to 15. Like you do not want to finish 10th and end up as the 1 to 18 out guy.
Yeah, because that might be the biggest difference we had is I just custom make all of them. And so it was one of those things where, because I remember, I think it was like Cliff Lee, or it might have been like Cole Hamels one year. It might be Cole Hamels in like the 2018 Phillies, where he's like so much worse than Jamie Moyer. And I was like, no, poor Cole.
They had 3 top 10 in ERA guys, so I think he's the 1 or the 2, I forget.
Yeah, and so he got the control 1, and it was one of those things where I was like, why is he worse for being better? And so that was one of the changes we made with how we did our pitchers.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So it's always it's how do you get because I feel like you need the 2 1 to 18. Like I feel like you need different types of guys, but.
Yeah, because we have them in the set. We just have them not be the 9th best pitcher represented. It ends up being like the 40 whatever pitcher, like point wise. So we just try to stratify it.
Maybe pick some old timer who's Billy Chappell.
Oh yeah, well Billy. Let's be honest. Billy's a control 8 1 through 19 out.
It's just his last game. No, he's 2-1.
Billy Chappell turning Yankee Stadium into his cathedral.
I think he's a 2-1 to 18 who's rolling hot.
It's possible. I would love to. I think they flash his season stats up at the beginning of that movie. And if I remember from being like 15 and watching that movie all the time, I think he had like a 3.5-ish ERA. He was like 14 and 15 with a bunch of complete games. And I was like, I remember at the time being like, wait,
he's retiring?
Billy Chappell, like a control 5 IP7 guy?
What is ran into someone at a wedding who does like movie podcasts. And so I was like, I volunteered my services if they ever do a baseball one. So I already have and then like I ended up listening to the podcast because obviously I can't say that word because he who shall not be named. So I listened to it in their top, like one of the lists they had a league of their own. So I already made a Marla Hooch card.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very exciting. I think you can picture how that cutout looks. What a hitter. I think so. My thought is, don't draft this James Shields card, first of all. Second of all, I think the best thing, and Magic the Gathering did this, they came out with Godzilla cards, but they just took regular cards that they had, and they have alternate art, and it says what the card is. So it's not mechanically different.
Yeah.
So Marla Hooch is Roberto Alomar 2000, which was very different.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
The only problem is she's a switch hitter, so it limited who she could be as a second baseman.
Yeah.
I thought she should be Jeff Kent. What a hitter. Matt Garza apparently sucked.
Oof. But that's what's tough is Matt Garza. His WHIP was almost a full 0.1 better than Niemann, and they had almost identical ERAs. The big difference was Garza was 8-12, and Niemann was 13-6.
8-12. I think a 0 for 8-12 is a little. I think I was a little stiff on Matt Garza, but I did give him the 1-18. He's not like the 10.0. Like, because there are a bunch of guys who just get like tattooed, who are the 0, 5-inning pitch, 1-17, give up a homer. Like, there are plenty of those guys. So this is actually a 0 that like you could play, and you know what? In a single season draft, like, or a single season, single team, single year, like, he could beat some 4s, and he can.
Well, I think what we've sort of gone big on is that like tier system.
Mm-hmm.
So like control plus outs, and then being in that system. And so Garza in that is a tier 5.
Yeah.
And that makes it tough to roster. The low control in general is tough for a draft. If you roll hot, you're right. You're gonna definitely beat some 4s, but it's gonna be tough over the course of the simulated season for poor Garza to survive.
I think if he places some bad teams, I think he's gonna win. When we simulate this, I would bet. I would bet that he gets 6 to 7 wins.
Yeah, he might get that. I think his ERA is going to be close to 6.
Well, not every team's 5,000 points. Remember, like, he's going to face the Orioles a couple times.
But the problem is, I think, like, because we were talking about with Upton, where like the low on base teams that can absolutely slaughter, have like the good charts, and like like the counting stats have to come from somewhere. Garza is the somewhere for those teams. I think that's where I think poor Matt is gonna take some beatings.
It's gonna be an interesting one. I'm interested to see how a simulated season goes. I don't think this card's gonna shine favorably on him. I think he deserves better than what he got. JP Howell will close games.
Yeah, and kind of the first among what ends up being many really, really, really good Rays relievers.
They just find guys for 1 year, right? Like, they don't have this, like, they don't have many people who stuck around for too long.
Yeah.
So, but they just.
Think about like on their all-decade team, that Fernando Rodney 2012 year, the control 5, 1-18 out with no doubles.
Yeah, he just he got the Billy Wagner card because he just.
He deserved it, and in 2010, Soriano and Benoit are amazing. Jake McGee in 2012 was a tier 1, no doubt. Basically Pedro as a reliever, and then that Brad Boxberger in 2014 was amazing. So they've got
made a
really good
thing having guys have like a 1.5 ERA through halfway through the year, and then trading them away for prospects. They did that all the time.
Yep.
We're a long way from Esteban Yan. So, in this set, there's not a lot of 6. There's not a lot of the 6 control relievers. I think there's only 6 of them, actually. I was a little stingy on the 6s. So
I also am. I think that's a good thing. I think stingy on the 6 is good, just because people abuse the extra innings with them so much.
Yeah. So
I think
Go ahead.
Your rules that you were talking about are, I think, really positive for limiting the extra innings out of guys. but so many people just haven't done that, and it can just ruin it for people if you've got the Steve Klein coming in for 3 innings every game.
Yeah, every other game. You're going to have more innings pitched than James Shields.
Yeah.
So I like the 24-sided dice idea, but only in person, because I want it like set up on a little thing, and I want to like grab it. I want like break in case of emergency.
Oh yeah.
So either way, JP Howell's good. You're gonna have to take him because again, there's not infinite 6s. So Lance Cormier, here's one of these big ground ball relievers.
Yeah.
Always a weapon. You bring guys in to get that double play.
And I really like, just in general, control 4 on at 17 guys. Like I think of them as bread and butter tier 3. I prefer control 4 on at 17 to control 5 on at 16. Mm-hmm. So like, give me Jose Rosado over David Cone in the original. I love these guys. So I definitely take Lance, especially that 120. I think just very solid number 3 reliever in my pen. I can always depend on in like the 6th or 7th inning when needed.
What I don't love is my Photoshop skills here. I think everything is at a right angle. I did not give Lance Cormier the time of day.
I mean, you've got to do like 600 cutouts. It's bound to happen.
Yeah, you just spend a certain amount of time cutting out grown men's crotch in like the computer lab of your college before people start saying things. So sorry for your Daffy Duck Bill hat here, Lance. All right, what we got? Grant Balfour, he ended up with a big card at some point too.
Oh yeah, no, Balfour is just a beast, but not this year.
No, not this year. Again, solid in a single team, right? Like if you're playing with these Rays, like he's a guy who can get outs and has a use, and but you're trading 10 points for an out. It's not a good trade when you're comparing to Cormier. So fill him in if you need him, right? Like
yeah.
So homer on the chart. How do you feel about homer on the chart out of the pen?
It's really tough. I'm okay with it if it's like my 5th or 6th, and I agree with your assessment here that 80 points is probably too much for me to spend on a guy with a homer on his chart. I like it when there's the guy with the homer and he's like 40 or 50 points. And I just kind of like squeeze him in, and I'm like, all right, if I'm up or down by more than 3 runs, I can try to like squeeze some outs out of this guy or just let him get shelled.
Dan Plesac has ruined this like tier for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like that I could get him for 90 points in the regular set of this guy for 80.
Yeah.
So what I really don't like is he gives up big damage and you can get cheap runs against him. So how's he stopping anybody?
Yeah, you can ping around on him with all those singles. That's tough.
You can steal on him. It's not like he's a dominant chart in any way. Like I can live with the 20. The problem is getting the numbers that make sense where someone has a homer on their chart and the outs. So
yeah, that's how the last 2 sets that I made, we had back-to-back. Jansen had a home run off his chart.
Yeah.
And Hader had a home run on his chart. And so both ended up being like control 6 guys. But then you're risking that 20. So that was a big play with fire closers. You get them cheap. They're like 120, 130 points. But, it's tough to stomach.
Forget the curveball, Ricky. Give him the heater.
Yeah.
So, all right, a couple strategy cards here. So this is my thought if you're playing single team, single year, right? You got the 09 Rays, and then also I guess you could just use these manager cards. So I don't like too much freedom with strategy cards.
Yeah.
I think you need to keep the reins on a little bit. So my thought was every manager gets 10 cards and they're all pre-assigned. So you gotta kind of and you can control power level. So it's not just a million 3 up, 3 downs. Guys just keeping Pedro in for 18 innings.
Yeah.
So first cup. So here we go. We got the Rays. We got Madden. Two old favorites. Runner not held, rally cap. Nothing different there.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's okay with both these cards existing. By the way, I don't think anyone's like, oh, that's an unfair card.
No. And they're fun.
So here's my philosophy on like offensive, especially add to the swing cards, is you can get +1 for nothing, and +2 you have to meet a situation.
Okay.
And I think you probably need. I think there's probably also a discarded card in there to like limit stuff. So here's some quirky ones. Here, I'm interested in your thoughts on one-way lead and first move. By the way, are the same card, just mirrored. So
Okay.
I'm wondering if you can read this and tell me what happens.
All right. So basically, the catcher's arm is going way down. The pitcher is getting -2, so you're probably going to get an advantage. Okay, so at the end of this, you get the chance to steal.
You get the chance. You could steal.
So basically, that they've got to choose between whether or not they're going to end up getting +5 to their catcher or +2 to their pitch, and if the other one that they don't gets hurt tremendously.
Yeah, I haven't found a better way to word it than that.
But, like, essentially, they're picking their poison, where they're either going to add 2 to the pitch and then lose 5 on the stolen base attempt if it happens, or they're going to be set up kind of nicely on trying to throw you out, but they're most likely going to lose the advantage on the pitch.
Yeah, you either get +5 arm, -2 to the pitch, or the opposite.
And so you're kind of hoping, I would think, you'd want them to choose the catcher arm and then not draw the defensive card. So you just have to deal with -2 pitch, and hopefully you're going to be getting a chart.
Yeah, so you can bait them in and you don't have to run.
Yeah.
You get to choose, right? So you just flip your card over, and if it's the right type, then you make the attempt. And if you don't, you just stay.
Okay.
So that's the best way I could think to create a card that simulates that, kind of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
If anyone has a better template, put it in the comments section. I'd love to see it, because I am not married to this, but it was the best I could do. I think once you play it a couple times, you get it.
I like the guys you chose for it too. I think Ichiro and Billy are great. I think it's important on strategy cards to put pictures of guys that just really embody what the card's about. And like those are 2 guys who, when they got on first base, you definitely had to be considering, like, am I going to pitch out and fall behind in the count, giving the hitter the advantage, or am I going to just risk it for the biscuit and see what my catcher's got? So I like this.
I like it. All right, hit and run, something where you just go through all the possible scenarios.
Oh, that's fun.
Huh? So whatever. All right, so I did give the runner a minus on the speed. So needless to say, these Rays are moving. They're doing some Joe Madden-y things.
Yeah.
So
small ball.
Small ball. No, they did hit a bunch of home runs. So I'd give him swing for the. I don't think everything needs to be a textbook. So swing for the fences, I think, is a perfectly fine strategy card. Intentional walk, I think, is a.
It makes so much sense, especially with Crush Davis there.
Yeah. Just looking off. I don't think he wasn't in the 09 set, but I don't think the strategy cards need to be there. So again, full windup, I think is full windup's not a card you would ever put in your own deck, but just fill in,
Yeah.
Make a good use there. So something we need to talk
especially
about.
for relievers.
Yeah. Well, just when you need it, right? Like it's like, okay, here it is. Like, but then it's like if you save it for the 10 on base and the guy gets on ahead of him, then what do you do?
Yep.
So. All right, thoughts on strike 3?
I like that.
So, yeah, I like if you guys haven't picked up, I kind of like the lower impact strategy cards. I don't like just the +1 million, game.
And I like that it's like a big strike 3 where it neutralizes their chance to re-roll it. It's like, I need the strikeout here, boom, lock it down.
Yeah. So, and then step off, just a simple, get taken away a little bit from the speed, and then you're just giving up a small thing and that they can't get out with the advantage. So.
Yeah.
I like the strategy cards to be a little bit more subtle. I'm fine. I play with no strategy cards, so this is the compromise that I'm willing to make.
Yeah, I've honestly never used the strategy cards.
So the problem is there were a couple, gamers gonna game, right? So think Pep Talk let you draw a bunch of cards. So, and your deck didn't, like, your deck recycles. It doesn't, like, so one of the first big tournaments involved a guy, like walking in, like, 8 runs or something. And,
Oof.
yeah, like, just not doing it, like, nothing that looked like real baseball.
Yeah, I remember people would, like, intentionally go down, like, 12-0, so they could draw a bunch of cards and then just come storming back on the later sets.
Yeah, so that is not what I want to try to encourage. So, again, sets made so you can play without them. This is the best that I could consider. We'll put these in with a couple of different teams and see how they all work. So, this has been a treat. I'm looking forward to doing the rest of the 09 season with you.
Oh yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, and good flashback through memory lane.
There it is. So we'll see how it goes when we go through some of the worst teams. The AL East does have the Orioles.
Oof.
All right. Well, this has been the 2009 review. So look forward to continuing with you.